just for bending down to help an elderly man with Alzheimer's eat spoon by spoon in a luxury restaurant. A black waitress lost her job in an instant. She fell into unemployment, was rejected everywhere, and was forced to take low-paying jobs just to survive. Until one day, while walking through a park, she unexpectedly met the same old man again, this time with his son. What she never imagined was that his son was a wealthy CEO, and when the truth about her being fired was revealed, what the CEO did next would leave you shocked. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you watching from. We love to hear your thought. The photograph sat on the nightstand, slightly faded at the edges. Amara stared at her mother's smile, the way the sunlight had caught her face that day in the park, back when everything still felt possible. It had been exactly 1 year. She reached out and touched the frame, her fingertips tracing the outline of her mother's face. 1 year since the funeral. 1 year since she'd held that frail hand in the hospital room and felt it go still. 1 year since the world had gone silent. Amara pulled her hand back and wrapped her arms around herself. The apartment was cold. She'd turned the heat down to save money, wearing 2 sweaters instead. The bills were still piled on the kitchen counter, some of them overdue. Medical debt didn't care that you were grieving. She closed her eyes and let herself remember. 2 years ago, she'd been standing in a cap and gown, diploma in hand, her mother beaming in the front row, business administration degree from State University. Honors, job offers starting to come in. The future had stretched out before her like an open highway, bright and full of promise. Then came the diagnosis, stage 4. Aggressive. 6 months, maybe less. Amara had withdrawn her job applications one by one. She'd moved back home. She'd learned to change IV bags, to measure medication, to smile when her mother asked if she was okay. She'd worked double shifts at the diner, then triple shifts when the treatment bills came. She'd watched her mother shrink, day by day, until there was almost nothing left, and then there was nothing left. "I'm sorry, baby," her mother had whispered near the end. "You were supposed to have everything." Amara opened her eyes. The photograph stared back at her, unchanging. She stood up slowly, smoothing down her black slacks and white shirt, her waitress uniform for the Meridian, the upscale restaurant downtown, where she'd been working for the past 3 months. It wasn't what she'd imagined for herself, but it paid better than the diner, and she was good at it. Attentive, patient, kind. The bus ride took 40 minutes. She watched the city change through the window, the buildings growing taller, the cars getting newer, the people walking faster. By the time she reached the Meridian's block, everything gleamed. Even the sidewalks looked expensive. She entered through the staff entrance and clocked in. The kitchen was already alive with noise, chefs shouting orders, pans clattering. She tied her apron and checked her reflection in the small mirror by the door. Professional, presentable, invisible. "Amara, you've got section 3 tonight," Marcus, the floor manager, said without looking up from his tablet. "VIP reservations, don't mess it up." "I won't." She walked into the dining room. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm golden light across white tablecloths and silver cutlery. Piano music drifted from the corner, where a woman in an evening gown played something soft and classical. The air smelled like expensive wine and fresh flowers. Amara moved between tables, taking orders, pouring water, smiling. The guests barely looked at her. She was part of the furniture, there to serve and disappear. Then she saw him. He sat alone at table 12, a man in his 70s with thin white hair and trembling hands. He wore a suit that might have been elegant once, but now hung loose on his frame. His eyes were focused on the menu, but his hands shook so badly he could barely hold it. Amara approached. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" He looked up, and she saw the embarrassment in his eyes. Water would be fine." His voice was soft, almost apologetic. She poured his water and waited while he studied the menu. His hands continued to shake. After a moment he set the menu down. "I'll have the chicken, the roasted chicken." "Excellent choice. That comes with seasonal vegetables, and yes, that's fine. Thank you." She took the menu and walked back to the kitchen. Something about him stayed with her, the loneliness in his eyes, the way he'd tried to steady his hands and failed. When she brought out his food, she placed it carefully in front of him. He looked at the plate, then at his hands, and she saw his shoulders sag slightly. He picked up the fork. It trembled in his grip. He tried to spear a piece of chicken, but the fork wavered and slipped. He tried again. The fork clinked against the plate. Amara glanced around. At the next table, a woman in diamonds whispered to her companion. They were both staring at the old man. At another table, a businessman frowned and looked away. The old man tried once more. His hand shook harder now, whether from the effort or the shame, Amara couldn't tell. The piece of chicken fell from his fork. He set the utensil down and stared at his plate. Amara's chest tightened. She thought of her mother in those final weeks, how her hands had trembled just like this, how she'd cried the first time she couldn't hold a spoon. She walked back to table 12. "Sir, would you mind if I helped you?" He looked up, startled. "Oh no, I don't want to. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. It's no trouble at all." She pulled out the chair beside him and sat down. She picked up his fork, cut a small piece of chicken, and held it toward him. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then slowly he leaned forward and took the bite. "How is it?" she asked softly. "It's very good." She cut another piece. "Have you been here before?" "A long time ago, with my wife. She passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry, it was her favorite place." He took another bite. "I wanted to. I don't know. Remember?" Amara continued feeding him, cutting the chicken into small pieces, spearing vegetables, offering each bite with care. She talked to him about small things, the weather, the piano music, the flowers on the table. He answered quietly, his embarrassment gradually fading. She didn't notice the other tables watching. She didn't see the diamond woman pull out her phone to record. She didn't hear the businessman mutter to the waiter. She only saw the old man's face relax, saw him smile for the first time that evening. "You're very kind," he said softly. "My daughter, she can't visit much anymore, lives far away, busy with her own family. I forget sometimes what it's like when someone has patience. Everyone deserves patience." She finished helping him eat, wiped his mouth gently with a napkin, and poured him more water. He thanked her 3 times before she stood up. As she turned away from the table, she nearly walked into Marcus. His face was red. "My office, now." Her stomach dropped. "I was just now." She followed him through the dining room. She could feel the other guests watching. The diamond woman was still holding her phone. The businessman smirked. Marcus closed the office door behind them. "What the hell were you thinking?" He needed help. He couldn't. "This is a 5-star restaurant, not a nursing home." Marcus's voice was sharp. "Do you know what you just did out there? Do you know how that looked?" "I was helping a customer." "You were making a scene. You sat down at a guest's table. You hand-fed him like a child. I've already had 2 complaints about it being uncomfortable to watch." Amara felt heat rising in her face. He was hungry. He couldn't eat by himself. Then he shouldn't have come here. Marcus leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Look, I get it. You wanted to help, but we have standards here. Protocol. You broke protocol. Protocol doesn't matter more than people. In this restaurant it does." He sighed. "Go home. I'll call you tomorrow." "Are you firing me?" "I'm sending you home. We'll discuss it tomorrow." Amara untied her apron slowly. Her hands were steady, even though her heart was racing. "I'd do it again." "I know, that's the problem." She walked out through the dining room. The old man was gone. His table had been cleared. She wondered if he'd finished his meal, if he'd been asked to leave, if he'd felt ashamed all over again. On the bus ride home, she stared out the window and thought about her mother, about all the times strangers had looked away when she struggled, about all the times no one had offered help. Her phone buzzed the next morning while she was making coffee. "Miss Williams, this is Marcus from the Meridian. I'm calling to inform you that your employment has been terminated, effective immediately. You violated restaurant policy and negatively impacted the dining experience of other guests. Your final check will be mailed to you." The line went dead. Amara set the phone down carefully. She looked at her mother's photograph on the nightstand. "I'd do it again," she whispered. The rejection emails came in steady like rain. "Thank you for your interest in the position at Henderson & Associates. Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. We appreciate you taking the time to apply for the role of assistant manager at Riverside Bistro. While your qualifications are impressive, we don't feel you're the right fit for our team at this time. Dear Miss Williams, after careful consideration, we regret to inform you." Amara sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, scrolling through job boards. It had been 2 weeks since the Meridian fired her. 2 weeks of applications, phone calls, and interviews that led nowhere. She'd started with restaurants similar to the Meridian, upscale places where her experience would matter. But word traveled fast in the industry. Wasn't she the one who got fired for sitting with a customer? Made other guests uncomfortable, I heard.
Liability issue.
So she'd moved down the ladder. Mid-range restaurants, then casual dining chains, then diners. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. Hello? Hi. Is this Amara Williams? Yes. This is Janet from Corner Cafe. I'm calling about your application for the server position. Amara sat up straighter. Yes. Thank you for calling. I've reviewed your resume, and you're clearly overqualified for this role. You have a business degree, and you've worked at some pretty nice establishments. I'm very interested in the position. I'm sure you are. There was a pause. Look, I'll be honest with you. When someone with your background applies for a job like this, it raises questions. Are you going to leave the second something better comes along? Are you going to cause problems because you think you're too good for the work? I wouldn't. And there's another thing. Janet's voice became carefully neutral. We're a small community restaurant, family-oriented. Our customers have certain expectations. I'm not sure you'd be comfortable here. Amara's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of expectations? You understand what I mean?
No.
Please explain. Another pause. I think we'll pass on your application. Best of luck in your search. The line went dead. Amara set the phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes. She wouldn't cry. She'd already cried enough this month. She kept applying. 3 days later, she got a call back from a place called Benny's Diner. The manager, a man named Lou, told her to come in for an interview that afternoon. Benny's was in a rough part of town. The sign out front was missing 2 letters. Inside, the booths had rips in the vinyl, and the floor was sticky. The smell of old grease hung in the air. Lou was a heavy man with gray stubble and tired eyes. He looked at her resume for maybe 10 seconds. When can you start? You're offering me the job. You can work nights. Yes. Weekends. Yes. $7.50 an hour plus tips. Tips aren't great. Most people who come here don't tip well. He shrugged. But it's work. $7.50 an hour. She'd made 12 at the Meridian. I'll take it. Good. Start tomorrow. 5 p.m. Wear black pants and a white shirt. Bring your own apron. The first night was brutal. The customers were rough. Construction workers who smelled like sweat. Truck drivers passing through. Groups of teenagers who ordered water and split 1 plate of fries. No one looked at her like a person. They looked at her like an inconvenience. Hey, waitress, where's my coffee? This burger's cold. Take it back. What's taking so long? We've been waiting 10 minutes. She smiled through it, apologized, brought more napkins, more ketchup, more coffee. Her feet ached, her back hurt. She got home each night and collapsed into bed, too exhausted to even shower. The tips were terrible. One night she made $11 in 5 hours. Another night, a table of 6 people left her 37 cents. Lou didn't seem to notice, or care. You're doing fine, he said when she asked if there was anything she could do better. Just keep the food moving. After a month, she'd gotten used to it. The grease smell, the sticky floor, the way her body hurt every morning. She'd gotten used to being invisible again, except this time it felt different. At the Meridian she'd been invisible because she was staff. Here, she was invisible because no one thought she mattered. One evening, a woman and her daughter came in. The daughter was maybe 7 years old, with pink barrettes in her hair. Amara took their order, smiling at the little girl. When she brought their food, the mother looked at her plate and frowned. This isn't what I ordered. Amara checked her notepad. You ordered the chicken sandwich with. I said no mayo. There's mayo on this. Amara looked at the sandwich. There was no mayo, just lettuce and tomato. I don't see any mayo, ma'am. Are you calling me a liar? No, I just get me your manager. Lou came out, listened to the woman complain, then took the sandwich back to the kitchen. He brought out a new one, identical to the first. Here you go, ma'am. Our apologies. After they left, Lou pulled Amara aside. You need to learn when to just agree with the customer. But she was wrong. Doesn't matter. Customers always right, even when they're not. Amara thought about that on the bus ride home. The customer's always right, even when they're cruel, even when they're lying, even when they treat you like dirt. She thought about the old man at the Meridian, about how he'd needed help and she'd given it, about how that single act of decency had cost her everything. Was that wrong? Should she have looked away? Should she have let him sit there, hungry and humiliated, just to protect her job? She looked at her reflection in the bus window. She barely recognized herself anymore. The exhaustion had carved lines into her face. Her eyes looked older, sadder. But when she thought about the old man's smile, about the way his shoulders had relaxed when she'd helped him eat, she knew she'd make the same choice again, even if it cost her everything, even if no one ever thanked her, even if the world kept punishing her for caring. She got off the bus and walked the 3 blocks to her apartment. The medical bills were still on the counter, the heat was still turned down, her mother's photograph still sat on the nightstand. "I'm still here," she whispered to the empty room. "I'm still trying," but she was so tired. Sunday afternoon, and Amara had 4 hours between her lunch shift and her dinner shift at Benny's. She sat on a bench in Riverside Park with a library book she wasn't really reading. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. For a few minutes, she could almost forget how exhausted she was. Children played on the swings nearby. A couple walked past with their dog. An old woman fed pigeons from a paper bag. Amara closed her eyes and tilted her face toward the sun. "Excuse me." She opened her eyes. A man stood in front of her, maybe in his 40s, wearing an expensive suit and sunglasses, handsome in that polished put-together way of people who never had to worry about money. Next to him, leaning on a cane, was the old man from the Meridian. Amara's breath caught. The old man's eyes widened. "It's you, the young lady from the restaurant." She stood up quickly. "Hello sir, how are you? I went back there, you know, the very next week. I wanted to thank you properly, but they said you didn't work there anymore." "I know, I don't." The younger man took off his sunglasses. His eyes were sharp, assessing. "They told my father you quit." "That's not exactly." "I knew it." The old man shook his head. "I knew something was wrong. I saw that manager of yours. The way he looked at you when you were helping me. He was angry, wasn't he?" Amara didn't answer. "They fired you." The old man's voice was heavy with guilt. "Because you helped me. Because you showed me kindness." "It's okay, really. It was just a job. Just a job." The younger man's voice was quiet but intense. "My father couldn't stop talking about you. About how you made him feel like a person instead of a burden. And they fired you for that. Please don't worry about it. I found other work." The old man reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, still trembling, but warm. "What's your name?" "Amara." "Amara, I'm Edward. This is my son Ethan." Ethan shook her hand. "What do you do now?" She hesitated. "I work at a diner. Benny's, over on Lexington." Ethan pulled out his phone and typed something. After a moment he looked up. "You have a business degree, honors." Amara felt her face grow warm. "How did you?" "LinkedIn. You're working at Benny's diner with a degree in business administration." "I needed work. They were hiring." Edward squeezed her hand. "Because of me. Because you helped me. I'd do it again." Something shifted in Ethan's expression. He studied her for a long moment, then put his phone away. "Amara, I run a consulting company, Sterling Advisory Group. We help businesses solve problems, improve operations, increase efficiency. We're always looking for smart people, people with integrity." "I appreciate that, but I'm not offering out of pity. I'm offering because someone with your education should be using it, and because," he glanced at his father, "because anyone who would risk their job to help a stranger is exactly the kind of person I want on my team." Amara looked between them. Edward was nodding, smiling hopefully. Ethan looked serious, professional. "I don't have office experience. You can learn. Come in for an interview. Just a conversation. See if it's a fit." He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "Call this number tomorrow morning. Ask for Sarah. She's my assistant. She'll set up a time." Amara took the card. It was heavy, expensive paper, gold lettering. "Thank you," she managed. "Thank you," Edward said, "for what you did, for treating me like I mattered." After they left, Amara sat back down on the bench. She stared at the business card. Sterling Advisory Group. Ethan Sterling, CEO. She looked up the company on her phone. 40 employees, major clients, awards for workplace excellence, revenue in the millions. She thought about Benny's diner, the grease smell, the sticky floor, the $11 nights. She thought about her degree, collecting dust in a folder under her bed. She thought about her mother, about the promises she'd made to her in those final days. "I'll make something of myself, Mama. I'll use my education. I'll make you proud." The sun was starting to set. She had to get to work soon. Another dinner shift, another night of exhaustion. She put the business card in her pocket. Maybe, just maybe, things could change. The Sterling Advisory Group occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in the financial district. Amara stood outside the building, smoothing down her blazer for the 3rd time. She'd bought it at a thrift store specifically for this interview. It fit well enough, though the hem was slightly frayed. She took a breath and walked inside. The lobby was all marble and steel. A security guard directed her to the elevator, 15th floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture. People in expensive suits moving purposefully between glass-walled offices. Amara Williams, a woman in her 30s, approached, hand extended. "I'm Sarah. Mr. Sterling is expecting you." Ethan's office was in the corner, with windows on 2 sides. He stood up when she entered, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Thank you for coming. How was the commute?" "Fine. Thank you for seeing me." He sat down and opened a folder. "I looked at your resume more carefully. Business administration from state, 3.7 GPA. Internship with Morrison and Kane during your junior year. Strong recommendations from your professors. Why did you stop pursuing this kind of work after graduation?" Amara had prepared for this question. "Family circumstances. My mother became ill. I needed flexible hours and immediate income." "I'm sorry to hear that. She passed away a year ago." "I'm very sorry." His expression was genuine. "And now I'm ready to use my degree." They talked for 40 minutes. He asked about her coursework, her interests, her approach to problem solving. She answered carefully, honestly. He didn't ask about the Meridian, and she didn't mention it. Finally he leaned back in his chair. "I'd like to bring you on as a junior analyst, entry level. You'd be working with our operations team, helping clients streamline their processes. Starting salary is $52,000 a year, plus benefits, health insurance, paid time off, retirement matching." Amara's mind stuttered. 52,000. She'd been making less than 18 at Benny's. Yes, I accept." "Good. Can you start next Monday?" "Yes." He smiled. "Welcome to Sterling Advisory." That weekend Amara gave her notice at Benny's. Lou shrugged. "Your choice. Good luck." Monday morning, she arrived at Sterling at 8:30 sharp. Sarah met her in the lobby and walked her to a cubicle near the back of the office. "This is yours. Computers all set up. Login info is on that sticky note. The operations team meets every morning at 9. I'll introduce you." At 9, Amara followed Sarah to a conference room. 6 people were already there, chatting and drinking coffee. They fell silent when she entered. "Everyone, this is Amara Williams. She's joining the operations team as a junior analyst." "Amara, this is Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, Rachel, David, and Claire." Claire was a woman in her late 20s with sharp features and perfectly styled blonde hair. She looked Amara up and down, then smiled tightly. "Welcome." The others murmured greetings and went back to their conversations. The meeting started. Marcus, the team lead, went through the week's projects. Amara took notes, trying to keep up with the jargon and acronyms. Everything felt foreign. She'd studied this stuff in school, but actually doing it was different. After the meeting, Claire approached her desk. "So you're the one Ethan personally hired?" "I went through an interview, right?" "Of course." Claire's smile didn't reach her eyes. "It's just unusual. He doesn't usually get involved in entry-level hiring. You must have made quite an impression. I hope to prove I deserve to be here." "I'm sure you do." Claire tapped a stack of files on Amara's desk. "These need to be reviewed by end of day. Data entry, basically. Pretty straightforward. Let me know if you have questions." She walked away before Amara could respond. The files took all day. Client reports, financial data, compliance documents. It was tedious work, but Amara forced herself to focus. She finished at 7 p.m., long after most of the office had emptied out. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. She arrived early, stayed late. She took on every task given to her, no matter how small. She asked questions carefully, aware that some people seemed impatient with her, especially Claire. "Amara, did you finish the Henderson report?" "Yes, I sent it to you this morning." "I didn't get it." I sent it at 8:15. Would you like me to resend it? Never mind, I found it. Claire's tone suggested this was somehow Amara's fault. Next time, make sure the subject line is clearer. Or Amara, we need the Riverside analysis by noon. I wasn't told about that project. Marcus mentioned it in the meeting last week. He assigned it to Tom. Well, Tom's busy with something else now. Can you handle it? I'll try, but I don't have all the background data. Figure it out. That's what we do here. Amara figured it out. She always figured it out. But the pattern continued. Last-minute projects, unclear instructions, blame when things went wrong. One afternoon, she was working on a client presentation when her computer froze. She tried rebooting. Nothing. She went to find IT. My computer crashed. I have a presentation due in 2 hours. The IT tech sighed. Did you save your work? It's auto-saving to the cloud. Should be fine then. I'll come look at it in a few minutes. 30 minutes later, her computer was back online. She opened the presentation file. It was blank. Her heart sank. 6 hours of work gone. She went to Claire's office, the presentation for Westfield Associates. My computer crashed and the file corrupted. I'm going to need more time to recreate it. Claire looked up from her laptop. That presentation is due to Marcus in 90 minutes. I know, but did you not save backup copies? It was supposed to auto-save. Supposed to. Claire shook her head. Amara, this is unacceptable. That client is important. You can't just lose an entire presentation. It wasn't my fault. The computer, it's your responsibility to back up your work. Everyone knows that. She picked up her phone. I'll have to tell Marcus. He's not going to be happy. Amara left the office feeling like she'd been punched. She went back to her desk and started rebuilding the presentation from memory. She worked frantically, racing the clock. At 5:30 Marcus appeared at her cubicle. I heard about the Westfield presentation. I'm almost done recreating it. I'll have it to you by 6. That's not the point. We can't have this kind of unreliability. My computer crashed. I've never had this happen before. That's what backups are for. He crossed his arms. Look, you're still new here. You're learning. But you need to understand that this kind of mistake reflects on the whole team. On me. I understand. It won't happen again. After he left, Amara sat very still. Her hands were shaking. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Instead she took a breath and kept working. She finished the presentation at 6:15 and emailed it to Marcus. Then she went to Can you check my auto-save settings? The presentation I was working on earlier didn't save. The tech pulled up her account. After a moment he frowned. Your auto-save was disabled. What? I didn't disable it. Someone did. See the timestamp. 3 days ago, 2:15. Amara's stomach turned cold. 3 days ago, at 2:15, she'd been in a meeting. Her computer had been unlocked at her desk.
Can you turn it back on? Already done. She walked back to her desk slowly. She looked across the office to where Claire sat typing away at her computer, perfectly composed. Amara sat down and opened her email. She wrote a message to Marcus, carefully worded, explaining that her autosave had been disabled and IT had confirmed it. She attached a screenshot of the timestamp. Then she deleted the email without sending it. She had no proof, no witnesses, and accusing Claire would only make her look paranoid or vindictive. It would make everything worse. So she said nothing. She kept her head down. She worked harder. She stayed later. And she waited for the next attack. The Turner Industries account was the biggest project Sterling Advisory had seen all year. A manufacturing company with 3,000 employees and 17 facilities across the country, they were hemorrhaging money and couldn't figure out why. Margins were down. Quality was suffering. Morale was in the toilet. They'd hired Sterling to find the problem and fix it. Marcus called an all-hands meeting. This is our flagship project for the quarter. Everyone's involved. I need analysis on supply chain, workforce management, operational efficiency and financial controls. We have 8 weeks to deliver recommendations. The client is paying us $400,000. We cannot afford to mess this up. He started assigning pieces of the project. Jennifer got supply chain. Tom got workforce. David got financial controls. Claire, you'll lead operational efficiency. That's the biggest piece. Claire nodded, already making notes. Amara, you'll support Claire. Data collection, preliminary analysis, whatever she needs. Support. Of course. Always support, never lead. Amara kept her expression neutral. Understood.
The first 3 weeks were brutal. Amara spent hours combing through Turner's operational data looking for patterns. Claire gave her minimal guidance, then criticized the results. These numbers don't match what I'm seeing. I pulled them directly from their system. Well, something's wrong. Do it again. Amara did it again. Same results. Claire sighed. I'll handle the analysis myself. Just focus on data collection. But when Amara collected data, Claire found other problems. The format was wrong. The categories weren't aligned. The timestamps were inconsistent. Amara fixed everything Claire pointed out. Then she did something Claire didn't know about. She kept working on her own analysis. Late at night, after everyone else had gone home, Amara stayed at her desk and dug deeper into Turner's operations. She looked at production schedules, machine maintenance logs, quality control reports. She cross-referenced everything, building spreadsheets and models, and she found it. The problem wasn't in any one area. It was in how the areas connected. Turner's production scheduling system didn't communicate with their maintenance system, so machines were being scheduled for heavy use right when they needed maintenance. This caused breakdowns. The breakdowns caused delays. The delays caused overtime costs and quality issues. The quality issues caused returns and refunds. It was a cascade effect, and it was costing Turner approximately $3.2 million a year. Amara documented everything. She built a presentation showing the problem, the cost, and 3 possible solutions. She checked her numbers 5 times. Then she saved it to her personal drive and said nothing. Week 6, Marcus called an emergency meeting. We have a problem. The client isn't happy with our progress. They want to see preliminary findings next week, and what we have so far isn't strong enough. Claire spoke up. The operational efficiency analysis is almost done. I've identified several areas for improvement. Walk me through it. Claire pulled up her presentation. It was professional, well formatted. But the recommendations were generic. Reduce waste, improve training, streamline processes. Nothing that would save Turner millions or justify a $400,000 consulting fee. Marcus frowned. This isn't enough. Turner already knows they need to reduce waste. They're paying us to tell them how and where. I can refine it. Claire said quickly. We don't have time to refine. The presentation is in 6 days. He looked around the room. Does anyone have anything else? Any other angles we should explore? Amara felt her heart pounding. She could stay quiet. Let Claire's analysis stand. Keep her head down like she'd been doing. Or she could speak up. She thought about her mother. About the old man at the Meridian. About every time she'd been invisible, dismissed, underestimated. She raised her hand. I might have something. Everyone turned to look at her. Claire's expression was carefully blank. Marcus nodded. Go ahead. Amara pulled up her presentation. I've been looking at the connection between Turner's production scheduling and their maintenance systems. They're not integrated, which is causing a cascade of problems. She walked them through it. The data, the pattern, the cost, the solutions. The room was silent when she finished. Marcus leaned forward. You calculated $3.2 million in annual losses. Yes. Conservative estimate. Could be higher. And you have 3 solutions with cost-benefit analysis for each. Yes. Why didn't you bring this to Claire earlier? Amara hesitated. She could throw Claire under the bus right now. Tell them about the sabotage, the constant criticism, the way she'd been shut out. Instead she said, I wanted to make sure my analysis was solid before presenting it. Marcus looked at Claire. Did you know about this? Amara was supposed to be supporting my analysis, not conducting her own. Her analysis just found $3 million in savings. Claire's face flushed. I was focused on the operational side. Scheduling integration is more of an IT issue. It's exactly an operational issue. Marcus turned back to Amara. Can you present this to Turner? Yes. Good. You're leading the presentation. Claire, you'll support with the operational efficiency piece. Everyone else, make sure your sections tie into Amara's findings. This is our center now. After the meeting, Amara went back to her desk. Her hands were shaking. She'd just publicly shown up Claire. There would be consequences, but she'd also just proved she belonged here. The presentation to Turner Industries was scheduled for the following Thursday. Amara spent the week refining her analysis, anticipating questions, preparing backup data. She barely slept. Thursday morning, the Sterling team arrived at Turner's headquarters. They were led to a boardroom where 8 executives sat waiting, including the CEO. Marcus made introductions. Then he turned to Amara. Amara will walk you through our primary findings. She stood up. Her heart was racing but her voice was steady. Thank you for your time today. Over the past 6 weeks we've conducted a comprehensive analysis of your operations. We've identified a critical issue that's costing your company approximately $3.2 million annually. She presented for 30 minutes. The Turner executives asked sharp questions. She answered each one with data, with clarity, with confidence. When she finished, the CEO leaned back in his chair. This is exactly what we needed. Not vague recommendations, specific problems with specific solutions. How fast can you implement this? Marcus jumped in. We can have implementation plans ready in 2 weeks. Do it. And I want Miss Williams on the implementation team. After the meeting, in the car back to the office, Marcus turned to Amara. That was exceptional work. The CEO specifically requested you. Do you know how rare that is? I'm just glad I could help. You did more than help. You saved this project. He paused. There's going to be a bonus for this. Substantial one. Back at the office, Ethan was waiting. I heard the presentation went well. Very well, Marcus said. Amara knocked it out of the park. Ethan smiled. Can I see you in my office, Amara? She followed him up. He closed the door and gestured to a chair. Marcus just told me what you found. $3 million in savings. The CEO asking for you specifically. That's remarkable, thank you. I also heard that you did this analysis on your own time, outside of your assigned role. He studied her. Why? I saw the problem. I wanted to solve it. Even though no one asked you to. Especially because no one asked me to. Ethan nodded slowly. I hired you because of what you did for my father. Because you helped someone when you didn't have to, when it cost you something. Now you've done it again. Seen something that needed fixing and fixed it. That's the kind of person I want in this company. He pulled out an envelope. This is your bonus. $10,000. You earned it. Amara took the envelope with shaking hands. $10,000. She thought about the medical bills on her counter. The heat she'd been keeping turned down. The debt that had been crushing her for a year. Thank you. For proving that taking a chance on someone is sometimes the best decision you can make. She walked back to her desk in a daze. $10,000. Financial breathing room. Proof that she was worth something. She sat down and opened the envelope. The check was there, exactly as promised. She thought about her mother. About the photograph on her nightstand. About all those nights at Benny's, wondering if she'd ever use her degree, ever amount to anything. I did it, Mama, she whispered. I'm doing it. But when she looked across the office at Claire, who was staring at her with barely concealed anger, she knew the victory was temporary. The real test was still ahead. Amara didn't see Claire for 2 days after the Turner presentation. She was off sick, according to the office. Migraines. When Claire came back on Monday, she looked terrible. Her makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. Her hair, usually immaculate, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She walked straight to her office and closed the door. People whispered, "She's not taking it well. Can you blame her?" Showed up by the new girl. I heard she might get demoted. Amara tried not to listen. She focused on her work. The implementation plan for Turner was complex, requiring coordination with their IT department, their operations managers, their union representatives. She spent hours on calls, reviewing documents, solving problems. She was good at this, really good, and people were starting to notice. Amara, can you look at this? Jennifer asked. I'm stuck on the supply chain piece. Amara, you got a second? Tom poked his head into her cubicle. I need your input on the workforce analysis. She helped everyone, patiently, thoroughly. The way she'd helped the old man eat his dinner at the Meridian. The way she'd helped her mother through those final months. Helping was what she did. Friday afternoon, she finished early and decided to take a walk. She needed air, needed to clear her head. The bonus money was in her bank account now. She'd paid off 3 medical bills. She'd turned her heat back up. She'd bought groceries without checking the price of everything. Small victories, but they felt enormous. She walked to the coffee shop on the corner and got herself a latte. Real coffee, not the instant stuff she'd been drinking. She sat by the window and watched people pass by. That's when she saw Claire. She was sitting on a bench across the street, hunched forward, her face in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking. Amara watched for a moment. She should go back to the office. Claire clearly wanted to be alone. And after everything Claire had done to her, the sabotage, the undermining, why should Amara care? But watching someone cry alone on a bench, she couldn't just walk away. She crossed the street. Claire. Claire's head snapped up. Her face was blotchy, tears streaming down. She wiped at them quickly. What do you want? I saw you sitting here. Are you okay? Do I look okay? No. Claire laughed bitterly. At least you're honest. She turned away. Just leave me alone. Amara sat down on the bench. Talk to me. Why? So you can gloat. You won. You showed me up. You got the bonus and the praise and everyone loves you now. Congratulations. That's not what I want. Then what do you want? To know why you're crying on a bench on a Friday afternoon instead of celebrating the weekend. Claire was quiet for a long moment, then quietly, my mom needs surgery. $60,000. Insurance won't cover it, it's experimental. But without it, she has maybe 6 months. Amara felt something crack open in her chest. I'm sorry, I've been trying to figure out how to pay for it. I have some savings but not nearly enough. I thought if I did well on the Turner project, there'd be a bonus, a big one. Enough to at least make a dent. She wiped her eyes again. But you got the bonus instead, which is fair. Your analysis was better. You deserved it, Claire. I know I've been awful to you. I know. Her voice broke. I saw Ethan hire you personally, and I was jealous. I thought you didn't deserve to be here. I thought you only got the job because of his father, because you were a charity case. So I tried to make you fail. I disabled your autosave. I gave you impossible deadlines. I took credit for your work. I know. Of course you do. You're not stupid. Claire looked at her. But you never said anything. You never told Marcus or Ethan. You just kept working, kept being better than me. And now my mom is dying and I can't save her and I have no one to blame but myself. Amara sat very still. She thought about the envelope in her desk drawer. The check for $10,000. She'd already deposited it, but she hadn't spent most of it. It was sitting in her account, safe and untouched, the first real savings she'd had in 2 years. She thought about her mother, about those final weeks when the experimental treatment might have saved her, but they didn't have the money. About how she'd had to watch her mother die, knowing there might have been another option. She thought about what her mother would tell her to do. Where is your mom getting the surgery? Memorial Hospital, Dr. Patterson. When? 2 weeks. If I can come up with the money. Amara pulled out her phone. She opened her banking app and transferred $9,000 to her checking account. Then she stood up. Come with me. What? Come on. They walked to the bank on the next block. Inside, Amara asked for a cashier's check. The teller printed it out. $9,000, made out to Memorial Hospital. Amara handed it to Claire. Claire stared at it. What is this? It's for your mom's surgery. This is $9,000. It's most of my bonus. I can't take this. Yes you can. No. Claire tried to hand it back. You earned this money. You have your own bills, your own life. You can't just give it away to someone who's been horrible to you. My mother needed an experimental treatment too. Amara's voice was quiet. 2 years ago, it cost $70,000. We didn't have it. I was working at a diner, making minimum wage. I applied for loans. They all said no. I watched my mother die, knowing that if I just had the money, maybe she'd still be here. Tears were streaming down Claire's face now. I can't let that happen to someone else, Amara said. I can't watch you go through what I went through. Not when I have the money to help. But I was so cruel to you. I know. I tried to get you fired. I know. Why would you do this? Amara looked at her. Because when my mom was sick when she was in the hospital, there was a nurse who stayed late one night. She wasn't supposed to. Her shift was over. But she stayed and she held my mom's hand, and she talked to her, and my mom felt less alone. That nurse didn't know us. She didn't owe us anything. But she stayed anyway. She paused. I asked her later why she did it. She said because someone did it for me once, when my dad was dying. And I've been passing it forward ever since. Claire was openly sobbing now. I don't deserve this. Maybe not. But your mom does. Amara pressed the check into Claire's hand. Take it. Use it. Save her. I'll pay you back. I swear. Every penny.
if you want to. But that's not why I'm doing this. Claire pulled her into a hug. Amara hugged her back, feeling the woman shake with sobs. Thank you, Claire whispered. Thank you. When they pulled apart, Claire wiped her face. I'm going to be better. I promise. To you. To everyone. I'm going to be the person you think I can be. I know you will. They walked back to the office together. Claire went straight to her office to call the hospital. Amara went to her desk. She opened her banking app again. $1,000 left from the bonus. The rest of her medical bills were still unpaid. Her savings were gone again. But her mother's photograph smiled at her from her phone's background. I did the right thing, didn't I, Mama? She could almost hear the answer. Baby, you always do. Across the office, standing near the window, Ethan Sterling watched the scene. He'd followed them from the coffee shop. He'd stood outside the bank. He'd seen everything. He pulled out his phone and made a note. Then he smiled. Ethan didn't sleep well that night. He kept thinking about what he'd witnessed. Amara handing over $9,000, nearly everything she'd earned from the bonus, to a woman who'd actively tried to sabotage her. He'd built his company on principles, integrity, excellence, results. He'd hired the smartest people, paid them well, and expected them to perform. It had worked. Sterling Advisory was successful, respected, growing. But watching Amara with Claire, he'd realized something was missing. He sat in his home office, whiskey in hand, and thought about his father. Edward Sterling had been a teacher, high school mathematics. For 40 years he'd taught kids who mostly didn't want to learn, didn't care about calculus, or trigonometry, or algebraic equations. He'd done it for terrible pay in an underfunded school system. Ethan had never understood it. You could have done anything, Dad. You were brilliant. You could have gone into finance, engineering, academia. Why teaching? His father had smiled. Because every year, there's one kid who gets it. One kid who sees the beauty in numbers. One kid whose whole life changes because someone took the time to explain something clearly. That's worth more than money. Ethan had thought it was naive, noble maybe, but naive. He'd gone the opposite direction. Business school, consulting. He'd climbed fast, made money, started his own firm. He'd proven that excellence and profit weren't mutually exclusive. You could do well and be successful, but you could do well without being good. His company had great numbers, high client satisfaction, low turnover. But when he really looked at it, what did Sterling Advisory do? They helped companies make more money. They optimized processes. They increased efficiency. All good things, all important things. But none of it was helping an old man eat his dinner with dignity. None of it was saving someone's dying mother. His phone buzzed, a text from his father. How's work? Ethan typed back. Good. How are you feeling? Better. The home nurse you hired is wonderful, patient, kind. Reminds me of that young woman from the restaurant. You ever find her? I did. I hired her. Good. Don't lose her. People like that are rare. Ethan stared at the message for a long time. Then he opened his laptop and started making changes. Monday morning, he called an all-company meeting. Everyone gathered in the main conference room. 40 people, looking curious and slightly nervous. Company-wide meetings usually meant big news. A new client, a restructure, layoffs. Ethan stood at the front of the room. I've been thinking about why we do what we do, why we come to work every day, why we put in the hours, solve the problems, serve the clients. People exchanged glances. We're good at what we do. Our clients are satisfied. We make money. By every traditional metric, we're successful. He paused. But I've realized we're missing something. We're so focused on optimizing our clients' operations that we've forgotten to optimize the thing that matters most. The people. He pulled up a slide. Effective immediately, Sterling Advisory is launching 3 new initiatives. First, the Sterling Support Fund. Every employee can apply for financial assistance when they or their immediate family face unexpected hardship, medical emergencies, family crises, anything that creates sudden financial strain. No questions asked, no judgment, just help. The room was silent. Second, flexible compassion leave. If you need to care for a sick family member, if you need time to grieve, if you need space to deal with life, you have it. Separate from vacation days, separate from sick days, and fully paid. Marcus raised his hand. How much leave? As much as you need. We'll figure it out, case by case. We're not going to put a number on how long someone gets to be human. Jennifer spoke up. What if someone abuses it? Then we'll deal with it. But I'd rather assume the best in people than create policies that assume the worst. He looked around the room. I know this sounds idealistic. I know some of you are thinking it's not practical, or it'll hurt profits. But I've seen recently what happens when we put people first. When we treat each other with actual compassion instead of just professional courtesy, it makes us better at everything. He clicked to the next slide. Third initiative. Every quarter, we're taking on one pro bono project, a non-profit, a community organization, something that needs help but can't afford us. We're going to use our skills to make a real difference, not just increase someone's profit margin. Tom looked skeptical. That's going to cut into our revenue. By less than 2%, we can afford it. But why would we? Because we can. Ethan's voice was firm. Because we have resources and skills and privilege, and using them only to make rich clients richer is a waste. Because I want to work somewhere that matters, and I think you do too. He looked directly at Amara, who was sitting in the back. Someone recently showed me that the best investment you can make is in other people, not in systems or processes, or optimization strategies, in actual human beings. That's what I want this company to be about. After the meeting, people lingered, talking quietly. Some looked excited, some looked uncertain, but no one looked angry. Ethan found Amara near the coffee station. Can we talk? They went to his office. I saw what you did, he said. With Claire. Amara's eyes widened. You were there. I followed you from the coffee shop. I saw you go to the bank. I heard the conversation. He leaned against his desk. $9,000, almost everything you earned. To someone who tried to sabotage you. She needed it more than I did. Most people wouldn't see it that way. I'm not most people. No, you're not. He smiled. You helped my father eat his dinner when you had no reason to. You found a $3 million problem, because you cared about doing good work, not because anyone asked you to. You gave away your bonus because someone's mother was dying, and you remembered what that felt like. I just did what felt right. That's exactly my point. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. This is yours. She opened it. Another check. $20,000. I can't accept this. It's not charity. It's recognition. You've shown this company what integrity looks like, what leadership looks like. That's worth more than any analysis or presentation. But take it. Pay your mother's medical bills. Buy yourself a coat that isn't from a thrift store. Save something for yourself for once. He met her eyes. You deserve it. Amara held the check with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me why I started this company in the first place. I'd forgotten somewhere along the way. You helped me remember. After she left, Ethan called his father. I'm making some changes at work. Good changes. I think so. Trying to be more like you. His father laughed. Took you long enough. Better late than never. That's my boy. Ethan hung up and looked out the window at the city. Somewhere down there, his father was sitting in his apartment, probably reading the paper or watching old movies, getting older, getting weaker, running out of time. But he'd lived a life that mattered. He'd helped people. He'd been kind. Ethan wanted that too. Finally he understood what his father had been trying to teach him all along. Success wasn't about money. It was about the moments when you chose to be human instead of efficient, when you chose compassion instead of protocol, when you fed an old man his dinner, even if it cost you everything.
The changes didn't happen overnight. The Sterling Support Fund required paperwork, legal reviews, clear guidelines about who could apply and for what, but Ethan pushed it through in 3 weeks, and by the end of the month the fund was live. The first person to use it was Rachel. She'd been at Sterling for 6 years, always quiet, always reliable. She came to Ethan's office with her application, looking uncomfortable. My son has autism. He needs intensive therapy, but insurance doesn't cover enough of it. I've been paying out of pocket and I'm drowning financially. Ethan looked at the application. She needed $12,000. Approved. The money will be in your account by tomorrow. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I'll pay it back. I can set up a payment plan. The fund isn't a loan, it's support. You don't pay it back. I can't just take $12,000. Yes you can, that's what it's for. He smiled. Your son needs therapy, now he can have it. That's all that matters. After Rachel left, Sarah, his assistant, came in. David just submitted an application too. His father-in-law is in hospice. He needs to fly to Colorado, stay there for a few weeks. Can't afford the time off and the travel. Approved. Whatever he needs. Within 2 months 8 people had used the fund. Medical bills, family emergencies, one woman whose apartment had flooded and she'd lost everything. One man whose car had died and he couldn't afford a new one. Every application was approved within 24 hours. People started talking about it. Not just inside Sterling but outside. Other companies heard about it. Some reached out to ask how it worked. Some criticized it as too idealistic, not sustainable. Ethan didn't care. The fund was staying. The flexible compassion leave was harder to implement. Some clients were demanding. Deadlines were real, but Ethan made it clear, if someone needed time, they got it. The team would cover. Deadlines would adjust. Life came first. Jennifer's mother had a stroke. She took 3 weeks off to help her father navigate the hospital, the rehab facility, the insurance nightmares. When she came back, her projects were waiting, covered by the team. No one complained. Tom's wife had a miscarriage. He took a week off, no questions asked. When he returned, people gave him space to be sad without pretending to be fine. One by one, people started to trust that the company meant what it said. The pro bono work took longer to set up. Marcus put together a committee to review applications. They got 47 requests in the first month. Food banks, homeless shelters, youth programs, community centers. They chose a literacy nonprofit that needed help streamlining their operations. The project took 6 weeks. It wasn't glamorous, it didn't pay anything. But at the end, the nonprofit could serve 30% more kids with the same budget. The team that worked on it came back energized. It felt good, Jennifer said. Like we were actually making a difference. Ethan knew the feeling. 3 months after implementing the changes, he called Amara into his office. I'm promoting you, senior analyst, 25% salary increase. You'll be leading your own projects now. Amara's eyes went wide. I've only been here 7 months, and in those 7 months you've done more to change this company than some people do in their entire careers. He leaned forward. You showed me what leadership actually looks like. Not just managing projects and hitting targets, leading with integrity, with compassion, with humanity. I just tried to do good work. Exactly, and that's what I want from everyone here. Do good work, be good people. Everything else follows. He paused. I'm also putting you on the board that approves support fund applications. You understand better than anyone what it means to need help, to be drowning and need someone to throw you a line. I'd be honored. After she left, Ethan sat alone in his office. He thought about the journey that had led here. His father struggling to eat. Amara sitting down beside him with a fork. Getting fired for caring. Being hired because someone saw her value. Giving away her bonus to save someone's mother. Every moment had built on the last. Every choice had consequences. He'd built a successful company, but now finally he was building a good one. His phone rang. His father. I heard about the changes you're making, the support fund and the leave policies. News travels fast. I'm proud of you, son. Ethan felt his throat tighten. His father didn't say that often. Thanks, Dad. You remember that young woman, Amara? Of course. Tell her thank you from me, for helping an old man eat his dinner, and for teaching my son what really matters. After they hung up, Ethan looked at the photo on his desk. His father at 40, strong and healthy, standing in front of his classroom, smiling that patient, kind smile. Ethan understood now. Success wasn't about the size of your company or the number on your paycheck. It was about the lives you touched, the people you helped, the difference you made. It was about feeding someone when they were hungry, even if no one was watching, even if it cost you everything. That was the only success that mattered. 15 months later, Amara stood in front of her bathroom mirror, straightening her jacket. It was new, bought at an actual department store, not a thrift shop. Dark blue, professional, perfectly tailored. She looked at herself and barely recognized the woman staring back. There was still grief in her eyes, probably always would be, but there was something else now too. Confidence, purpose, peace. Her phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Coffee before the meeting. My treat. Amara smiled and typed back, see you there. The coffee shop on the corner had become their spot. Every Monday morning before the chaos of the week began, they met for 20 minutes. Sometimes they talked about work, sometimes they talked about nothing. Mostly they just enjoyed being friends. Real friends. Hard-earned friends. Claire was already at their usual table when Amara arrived. She stood up and hugged her, ready for the big presentation, as ready as I'll ever be. You're going to kill it. You always do. They ordered their coffees and sat down. Claire pulled out her phone and showed Amara a photo. An older woman with short gray hair smiling in a garden. Mom's latest scan came back clear. 2 years in remission. Claire, that's wonderful. I know. Claire's eyes were bright. The doctor said the surgery gave her a fighting chance. And the surgery happened because you gave me that money. So really you saved her life. You would have found a way, maybe. But I don't have to wonder because you were there. She reached across the table and squeezed Amara's hand. I paid off the last of it, by the way. The 9,000. It's back in your account. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. You gave it freely, but I needed to give it back freely. Does that make sense? It does. They finished their coffee and walked to the office together. Sterling Advisory had moved to a bigger space last month. More room for the growing team. 53 employees now, up from 40. The new space had a lounge area with comfortable chairs and big windows, and on the wall a plaque. The Sterling Advisory Group exists to solve problems, serve clients and support people. In that order. Ethan's idea. Amara had helped write the words. The meeting was at 9. A potential new client, a tech company struggling with company culture. They'd heard about Sterling's reputation for combining business excellence with human values. They wanted that for themselves. Amara led the presentation. She talked about process, about metrics, about measurable outcomes. But she also talked about the support fund, about compassion leave, about pro bono work, about building a culture where people felt valued, not just productive. The CEO of the tech company listened intently. At the end he leaned back in his chair. This is different from other consultants we've talked to. They focus on efficiency, you focus on people. Efficient people are happy people. Amara said, take care of them, and the results follow. I like that. He looked at his team. I think we've found our partner. After they left, Ethan pulled Amara aside. Great work. As always, thanks. I think they'll be a good client. They will, and you'll lead the project. She'd stopped being surprised by this. She was a senior analyst now. She led projects. She managed teams. She made decisions. It still felt surreal sometimes. There's something else, Ethan said. I got a call from my father's care facility. He wants to see you. Me? Is everything okay? He's fine. Stubborn as ever. He just said he wants to thank you properly. He's been saying that for months. That Saturday Amara took the bus to Meadowbrook Assisted Living. It was a nice facility, not fancy but comfortable. Edward Sterling had moved there 6 months ago when living alone became too difficult. She found him in the common room sitting by the window with a book. Mr. Sterling. He looked up and his face broke into a wide smile. Amara, come sit. She sat down next to him. He looked frailer than he had that night at the Meridian, but his eyes were still kind, still sharp. My son tells me you're doing very well at his company. I'm trying my best. He says you're the best employee he has, that you changed the entire culture of the place. I just tried to help where I could. That's what you do, isn't it? Help people. He reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, trembling slightly. That night at the restaurant, when you helped me eat. Do you know what that meant to me? I'm just glad I could help. It was more than helping. It was seeing me, not as a problem or an inconvenience, as a person. His voice shook slightly. I was so ashamed that night, ashamed that I couldn't eat by myself, ashamed that people were staring, and then you sat down beside me, and you were so kind, so patient. You talked to me like I mattered. You did matter. You do matter. You lost your job because of me. I lost a job, but I found something better. I found work that means something, friends who care about me, a life I can be proud of. She squeezed his hand. So really you helped me more than I helped you. Edward smiled. My son said you'd say something like that. They talked for an hour, about his wife, who'd loved the Meridian, about his daughter who'd moved to Seattle but called every week, about his years teaching, about the students who'd gone on to do remarkable things. I always told my students, he said, that mathematics is about finding elegant solutions to complex problems. But the older I get, the more I realize life is the same. The most elegant solution is usually kindness. Everything else is just details.
When Amara left, she felt lighter somehow. The circle was complete. She'd helped an old man eat his dinner. He'd given her back her life. That evening, she went to Riverside Park, the same bench where she'd met Ethan and Edward that day, the same view of the river, the same sound of children playing. She pulled out her phone and looked at the photo of her mother. "I made it, Mama. I used my degree. I'm helping people. I'm doing work that matters." The sun was setting, turning the sky pink and gold. Somewhere in the city, Claire was having dinner with her mother. Edward was reading in his comfortable chair. Ethan was probably still at the office, making the company better every day. And Amara was here on a bench in the park, finally at peace. She thought about that night at the Meridian, how one small choice, one moment of compassion had changed everything for her, for Edward, for Ethan, for Claire, for everyone. Sometimes all it takes is one spoon of food, offered at the right moment to change a life. Sometimes all it takes is being willing to sit down beside someone and help them eat. Sometimes all it takes is caring when you don't have to, helping when no one's watching, giving when you have nothing left to give. That's what her mother had taught her. That's what she'd lived by. And that's what she'd keep doing, for as long as she could, because in the end that's what mattered. Not the money, or the title, or the success, just the people you helped along the way, just the kindness you showed when it cost you something, just the love you gave, even when the world said you were foolish for giving it. Amara stood up and started walking home. Tomorrow was Sunday. She'd sleep in, make a real breakfast, maybe call Claire. Monday she'd go back to work, lead another project, help another client, support another colleague. Life would go on, but it would be a good life. A meaningful life, a life her mother would be proud of, and really that was all she'd ever wanted.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.